just a good old boy.
Morning, y'all. We're headed. We're headed to Track Supply this morning. I gotta go get some drill bits to work on the sprayer. Today I've got some pieces made for it by a machinist. I'm gonna show you all I got going on there. But Track Supply, believe it or not, it generally doesn't carry that good of tools in general. Some of their stuff's okay, some of it's not. They're kind of like Walmart. The grade of their stuff is generally less than the same products if you buy it somewhere else. But believe it or not, I found a set of drill bits there. God, I guess it's been 4 years ago. I bought a set there that were supposedly titanium drill bits, and they were cheap. And I thought, well, I'm needing to drill some drill bits to not do that heavy of work. I'll buy them, whatever. I'm in a bind and I needed them right quick, so I bought them. Brought them home. Been one of the best drill bit sets I've ever had. I've used them in a drill press. I've used them mostly in the drill press. But I've also used drilling steel. But I've also used them in the handheld drill some, but mostly in the drill press. So I'm going to go back and see if they've got the same ones and try buying them again. They may not be any good now, but 4 years ago when I bought them, they was a pretty good little cheap set. But I don't know, who knows. I went to Home Depot last night, bought a new tap die set because my other one was shot, and it wasn't a full set. It was just the tabs, and that was it. And I needed the die set too to go with it, a little nicer set, so I bought one of those. I'll show you that when I get back to the shop. But we'll go in here and see if they got these, and hopefully they will. We'll get back, get started working on that thing. I'll show you what I'm gonna do with them. All right, so we're working on the sprayer today. I know I hadn't made I hadn't told y'all nothing about this little project yet. The other day I mentioned something about it. So when I made these booms to go on this sprayer and fabricated them and everything, if you watched me do all that and remember, some of you might remember, when I made these hinges right here, I did not have the correct material I needed to get these to work properly because they were real loose and you couldn't find it nowhere. Well, I went through that and I couldn't find none. I checked everywhere. There was nothing. I was told I was probably going to have to order something special to get it to work, and it was going to be extremely expensive, and I was short on time and I needed to get it done. So I attempted to make these pipe pieces here that were a little loose on this pin. They've gotten looser obviously since, but they were loose on that pin pretty bad. They weren't very tight. Actually, here's a piece of it now. So that's how much slop I had in there. I didn't like it. I tried to make these shims to fit down in there to tighten it up, but that didn't work. It made the pin too tight, and then the fold on it wouldn't work, so I ended up having to take those out. And I couldn't get nothing to make it all work, so I just stuck it on there and said, hopefully it'll hold, maybe it will. And it held all last year of me using this thing. I used it quite a bit. And then the last time I had used it to spray Johnson grass, one of these on the other side, which this one's cut off, one of these rings had cracked and it was going to have to be re-welded. And I said, well, I'm done. Before I start next year, I'm going to go find what I need and spend what I got to get it to work and work the way it's supposed to. Well, that's what these are. They could not get me. I went to a specialty shop. They looked around, and if they had to order this material made to fit the pins and everything, or get a pin that was thicker, to do that, it was going to cost a crap load of money. So what they told me they could do is have these made and machined. So they actually took solid rod and machined these pieces for me to fit the pins. These are the pin material, no slop, and they're perfect. They go right around just perfectly on that pin, and that should work. And the thickness of those is exactly how I had wanted this to be to begin with. The back ones I looked up and actually found some scrap metal laying around here of seamless pipe somehow to fit those pins that I had, and they are fine. They've held up great so far. I haven't had any issues. They were actually no slop in those, and they were the perfect size, but I had just enough to do the main hinges on the back, but I didn't have enough to do these extensions. So now I've had these made. These should last for forever. I shouldn't have any more issues. So what I'm doing right now, excuse the mess. I've had 100 projects going on and I haven't filmed, haven't had time to film. We've had a lot going on, but it is a disaster in this shop. Yes, I know. I try to keep it clean. It don't look like it right now because I'm busy and I'm working a lot in here. And quite honestly, I will admit it's embarrassing in here how nasty it is, but it is what it is. When you're so busy that you can't have time to clean up, it happens. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking 4 of these. There's going to be 4 on each extension on each side. There's 8 total of these things. I am drilling these and I'm putting grease certs in 4 of them. So there's 2 on each side that's going to have grease fittings on this on these extensions for this pin, so that way they'll stay, I can grease them and they'll stay nice and lubed up, and they'll work smoother and easier than hopefully the old ones ever did. So that's what I'm into. I went, as y'all seen this morning, and got drill bits, but they didn't, Tractor Supply did not have the drill bits that I wanted. Apparently, I think they've pretty well did away with them. They don't offer them anymore. So I bought the best, really, that I guess money can buy. These are Cobalt Irwin 28-piece hardened drill bits for steel. And that's what I've got here. These things are not cheap, and I figure I mostly use these things in that drill press and drilling steel with a smaller drill and everything. I needed something that was a good drill bit. I also went and bought a new tap and die set because my other one was shot. This is way nicer than my other one ever was. This is a Husky 72-piece ratchet tap and die set, lifetime warranty. There's all those. Here's all these. It comes with 1 single ratchet and adapters to make these or those fit. It also comes with a handle to put inside of these, so you can use those the way most traditionals, or you can use the ratchet, either one. It comes with these little gauges to gauge what type of thread you've got on the bolts to know which one you need. This is a little adapter piece. This is the nicest tap and die set I've ever had, and it's nice. Saw another YouTuber had this set, and I liked the looks of it, and sounded like he liked it too. And got it and tried it out. We'll see how it does. So far, I really like the looks of it, but we're going to use it today because I've got to thread these pieces to put these grease fittings in. The problem is the grease fittings that I've got, the threads on them are also messed up or burred up because they are, and I'm going to have to clean those up with it too. So we're going to set up and we're going to start drilling. All right, so we're fixing to start welding. So what I've got to do is I've got these pieces laid up here kind of how I want them. There needs to be a little bit of a hair gap down through here on these that spin, so that way they're not making contact with this steel. This one's touching, just hold, I'll have to hold it up just a hair. But I'm gonna tack this bottom one first, because if y'all can see, it's not exactly straight because of these pieces down here. So I'm gonna tack it good on the bottom, and then I'm gonna take the hammer and I'm gonna try to beat it back straight, and then get it to where I feel like where it's at, and it'll be nice and straight across there. And then I'm gonna finish tack welding this end, and then I'm gonna put it up to that end, tack weld it, fold it around, see how everything looks, and then we'll go from there. And I'll probably just weld it up after that, the hinges, and then the pins I'll do last. I'll pull them out, and then we'll weld them to the disc. But that's the plan. We got to get her laid over there and tack weld this and then we'll start from there. Oh, me. Alright, got my other pins, got a little burr on in, that way it won't drop through. I ain't gonna worry about that. So I've got to try to hold this thing. We'll try to put a tack on it. That way it'll stay. This is gonna be the fun part. What y'all think? It's moving slicker than a button, I'll tell you that. It's down a little bit, but I had to do that because of this bottom piece, which is fine. I ain't no beauty contest to have it perfect, but it's pretty dang close. I'd rather it stay on there good and be held good than it be pretty. But I think we got a winner right there. It's folded out straight, it slides back, it hits the bump about like the old one did. The old one wasn't centered either on that rubber. Hit a little bit lower. Probably should just pull that pin and take it apart before I knock these darn tacks off. That's the biggest thing I don't want to do. But it just folds right back around perfectly. Can't ask for anything better than that. And that thing is so easy to move compared to the old one. It's just slicker than a button. I like it. It worked good enough for me. Now we gotta get this pin out and finish welding up all these pieces without breaking nothing loose. Sides of these so that way I know they can't move while I'm welding it. Sometimes when you get stuff hot while you're welding it, it'll move a little bit. I don't want that happening. I want these things to stay perfectly like they are so the pins will line better. So stick that in there. Throw a little bit of tack on the pin. Can't move now. They're not getting more in a better location, so I don't swear it's forward. I really wish this welder's up there in my shop. It's not. I keep thinking maybe eventually we're gonna move this thing, but he ain't ever done it. It can't move now, so I'm gonna weld all this up. I'll get back to y'all in a little bit. All right, I got her back inside in here in the shop. I got to put all the hoses back on, but got her all put back together. I mean, she works slicker than a button now. I mean, it's one finger push around, which is perfect, because in order for those return springs on these cables to work, these are garage door springs, by the way, in case you're wondering. In order for those to work, to pull these back too closed like that, after the arms start to swing in, they can't be a whole lot of resistance, because those springs just won't move it if there is, and that's with no grease on it. I mean, I can push it all the way around, it'll fly all the way around, but it's gonna hit my baler tire, so I don't want to do that. But I mean, so you can tell, you just barely move it. You can sit here with your hand, spin it all day long. And it was not like that whenever I did that. When I've welded it the first time, and y'all watched me do that, and I took the pins out while I welded it, what I was afraid of happened. The heat, I reckon, had made these expand some, and it had caused these to be off by just a hair. as far as up and down. Side to side, that's perfect. But up and down, you can see there's a gap here. There wasn't no gap when I started, and it ended up with a gap, and this one here was too close, and they were real tight. I tried to take, they'd go together, but you had to take a hammer and tap it in, and it made this thing so stiff to even turn and do anything with that it was just not going to work. It worked properly the way I designed it to when I built this thing last year. So what I had to do is I just pulled well, I had done welded the disc on too. I did not weld it down here, and then I like to have never got that pin drove back up and out. Once I got it out, I took a grinder and ground this down and that one down, and then I took the pin out and I took the stand-up grinder and ground the pin down just to higher, and I got that thing in there where you can spin it like a top, and it was still had no play. Put it all back together and it works perfect. The other side I welded together. It done the exact same thing even though the pin was in there. I drove the pin out through the bottom because it didn't have the disc already on top. I didn't get as far as head on that one because it done messed up on this one. Drove it back out, did the exact same thing with it, and it works as free as this one does, and it works perfect. I think that this is going to be the fix from now on for these extensions. They've got a tad of play, but there's little to nothing in them. I think that that'll have that thing fixed from now on, especially as thick as those collars were I had machined. So I'm hoping that's all gonna have this thing fixed on these extensions anyway from now on. Grease fittings work good. If I did put the tapping video in here where I tapped these and drilled them, that is why they had to be what I was talking about in that video, that they needed to be in an exact location, was because, make sure y'all see, y'all can't see a damn thing. Okay, let me grab a flashlight because y'all can't see nothing. Let's see, the flashlight's going to be in a roll cart. It's supposed to be in a roll cart. Well, what the heck did I do with the flashlight? Or is somebody else done with the flashlight? Because my son comes in here and he gets into stuff too, and then Dad comes in here and borrows things too. Oh, wait a minute. I know where it's at. It's in my tool bag in my truck. Well, let's get the other one. I got two of those things. One of them I don't ever use, the other one I use all the time. So we'll use it. I'll put it together. Alright, now, here we go. Got this one. Here's what we need to see here. Alright, so tap screen, there you go. Right there, you see that little gap? That's all you've got to set these grease fittings. There's another one right there. And they had to be in a precise location for that to even fit and work. Because I ran into that the first time around and it didn't work, and I wound up and had to take them out because I had done welded them and I thought, well, they'd have plenty of clearance, and it didn't. This time around I remembered that that happened and I got them in there where they needed to be. So that's got grease certs on it too. When I get grease in them things, they will be running slick. Then the only other thing I might have to change with this design that I've come up with last year, and this was the first booms I'd ever built, is really that was too low. I had cut it out and made this lower so that way I could get it down closer to the ground, and it's actually too low. I actually run this thing nearly all the way up all the time. I kind of wish now that either A, I would have just mounted it on the bottom. I thought that was going to be way too high, which it would have been high if I'd had left it there. It really needs a piece welded, a tubing welded right across here in the center, and then one of these put on it to bring it down a little bit, and then it would probably be a little bit better, because sometimes, as long as these booms are and as rough as our ground is, I still have to watch, because the ends of these booms will sometimes can get into the ground, so I have to be careful. That's really the only thing on the design I might change, other than if I'd had it done over again. I had broken so many boom arms, and just from them breaking over time of going across the field, I built this thing like a tank. These boom arms, this is very heavy, thick steel. I think it was 3/16 thick steel that I used on this tubing, but I cannot remember. I want to say that's what it was. The whole main frame for it is perfect. I wouldn't change anything there or this. It's these that I would probably change. I might go a little bit thinner material on these, and then make these out of what the old material on the old sprayer booms it was. I think it was like a 1/16 thick square tubing or something like that. It was not very thick at all, but for no longer than that is, it would have worked perfect, and it would have cut back some on the weight. But then again, if I can't really complain about it either the way it is. I mean, it's not, you ain't gonna break it, we'll put it that way. But these, I may have to go back and have some of these made thicker in a few years and replace those. I haven't seen any signs of wear on these at all. No nothing. I mean, I looked up and had enough of that was actually tight enough to go around these pins. That was perfect, and it worked out perfect. But I may end up, I wouldn't be surprised in 2 or 3 years if I have to go back and cut these off and do the same thing I did with those, have these machined custom thick to like, I think those were like I want to say those were like almost 1/4 of an inch thick. I mean, they were thick. Those new ones I just put on, and have some like that made that thick, but to fit this pin to put in here, and then that wouldn't solve anything problems at all. The only thing else that you could have done to this thing to help with some of it is to probably have took and built another frame outside of this, and either just left this tube in here, went straight up with it and over the top of this and back down, and then hooked cables to it and had springs or shock absorbers somehow made into these booms, so that way it took some of the shock out of them. That was a little bit more, I had thought about that. I kind of wanted to put something in here to do that, but that was going to be a huge undertaking, because the shocks that you can normally buy are not to where they're pull-apart shocks. They're compression shocks. So you've got to come up with some kind of design in here. I could have done it to where it would have worked and pushed it together, and I had made some kind of linkage system to make it work, to get it to work right. Either that, or you would have had to use a whole lot lighter material in the booms and put maybe 4 of these garage door springs together, maybe 6, depending on or found some bigger, heavier ones. You can buy different pound garage door springs to go on these too, if you're thinking about building this, and maybe made a spring system out of those. I would think that it would have been way too bouncy, but especially on our ground as rough as it is, but it could be done. Thank y'all for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.